Good morning, Facebook, all our friends, followers, staff, faculty, alumni of Mercy College of Health Sciences. My name is Andy Gress. I'm the Director of Enrollment Management, and we really have exciting to meet. I think we've got a really exciting interview with Dr. Krista Steffens, who is our Associate Dean of Nursing. Today, we're talking all things MSN, so our new Masters of Science in Nursing with organizational and systems leadership emphasis. Welcome, Dr. Steffens. You know, before we get into the MSN, I always love you telling your story because you started as a nurse and you kept going to school, you had life happening. And I know a lot of times students look at the prospect of going back to school and they think, it's not for me. But you probably had those thoughts and you did it. So Dr. Steffens.
Yeah, so thanks, Andy. Definitely excited to be here and to answer questions and reach out to potential students. So you're absolutely right. Graduate education is just a whole other level of commitment and what have you. And absolutely, cornerstone of graduate education is building upon, professional knowledge that you have to gain while you're employed, right? So we have kind of a different approach with graduate education and being able to work with students that obviously have, family and occupational obligations and commitments. And so just as you said, I started my undergraduate journey with a quick, I'm going to get in there, get my associate's degree and get out and get working as a nurse. And I did not want anything to do with anything, going on, progressing further. But, the knowledge bug bit me and I sort of went from one end of the spectrum of just need to get what I need to get a job and provide all the way to a terminal degree and end up loving research and graduate education. And so one of the things that I found most influential in my educational journey were my graduate professors, because the relationship is so different than it is in that typical kind of like hierarchical, professor-student relationship, maybe that we kind of think of when we think of undergraduate studies. And so, our program is unique in that we really work very closely with our students with the understanding that they are adults and they come to us with that background and experience and, the obligations that really have in effect, helped season and make them who they are and why they're prepared for graduate studies to enter into that arena in the first place. So
that's great. Well, our program it's a 5-semester program if done full-time, but it can also be done part-time, and 37 graduate credits. But I want to hop into the actual curriculum and the coursework because that's why people are here. That's what they want to know. What's the experience going to be like? So, the intentionality of the organizational and systems leadership in terms of that being the academic focus. Talk to us about some of the classes and coursework that students will take pursuing this degree that will, help them build their first, graduate education, but then also that academic preparation to be a systems leader.
Gotcha, sure. So, as you mentioned earlier, our program is 37 credits, which is right in line with, typical graduate programs that build upon professional skills and knowledge. And so, the foundation of all graduate education, right? We need to sort of identify those critical concepts that are integral to your performance as a nurse leader in systems and organizational, leadership arena. And so 19 of the 37 credits are what we call core credits. And so those are where we really develop those critical competencies. Also included within those 19 credits, we have what we typically in graduation call the 3 Ps, which are pharmacology, pathophysiology, and advanced physical assessment. And this is key because, again, you don't ever want to say never. Those are required for you to progress. Like, let's say you ever, decide you want to go on for a doctorate or a clinical track degree or something in that along those lines in graduate nursing education. And so most accreditation do require those elements in order for you to enter into clinical studies. So the other elements that are included in our core curriculum are graduate statistics, the research at the graduate level, and really that is to sort of prepare you to be able to appraise evidence for worth, and how we would use that to incorporate into our practice. And then, of course, the elements of population health and quality improvement, patient safety. So those are all included in the 19 core credits. And then the concentration elements, that's where we kind of really dive into, professionally relevant or contextually specific, elements of the program. And so we start out with leadership principles and perspectives and interprofessional practice. There's a course on that. Finance, policy, and economics, and the development of those processes in healthcare systems. There's an informatics course where you will learn to harness information and use that to make decisions and drive processes in your organization. Of course, there's always theory on organizational and systems behaviors, and evidence-based practice management and quality improvement processes. That is always a driving force. And one of the core requirements was the quality improvement. And so that you'll also find is a curricular theme that goes throughout all the courses. And then, of course, there's always planning, management, and evaluation of programs. We have to be able to assess the efficacy of any changes that we make as leaders. And so that is the core, the concentration elements of the curriculum. And then it all culminates in a 120-hour immersion experience where you are paired based on, I would say paired, but more matched with a preceptor or mentor, where you will, based on your practicum interests and professional interests and background and goals for your career, will perform in an area in an organization with a nurse leader to develop projects and influence practice in that organization, again, based on your professional interests. And one of the things that we were going to require actually for you before you leave this program is that you leave with something that you are able to submit for publication. And of course, that doesn't happen in one course. And so from the very beginning of our curriculum, even in the core elements, we really coach students to focus their work on the major projects in each course, on a topic that centers around, something that you would consider doing for your immersion experience or a capstone of sorts, right? So anything that you work on, major papers, projects, presentations, anything along those lines throughout the whole curriculum, you sort of, what I like to think of as a snowball, right? The content expertise that you gain from working on projects that cover relevant topics to what you would like to publish or implement at the end of your program will come with you. And so you've got a body of knowledge and work that you've done that you can base that capstone project on. So it's sort of just kind of snowballs throughout the whole program, and you end up with something to implement at the end.
So let's pause and rewind a bit. So we'll parking lot the snowball.
Gotcha.
Let's go back to the start, because I heard at least a dozen words that scare college students.
All right.
Research, informatics, finance. But our program is different. All students are paired with a faculty mentor, and there's an integrated librarian, within the program and the classes. So, let's rewind and
I get excited.
Push some of those scary words backwards.
Yes.
And let's talk about the support that students are going to have really in kind of that collegial setting that you described.
Got it. So kind of back to what I was saying earlier with the different relationship that you have with your professors in graduate education. We also have what we call an integrated librarian. Our librarian is amazing, but her background is in advising graduate students and helping to like to develop professional and scholarly writing skills and implementation of projects. And so she is actually a presence in every single course that we have in our curriculum. And so not only do you have the resource of your professor and faculty mentor, you will also have our librarian, Jennifer Stieg, as a resource for research and just those conversations that you need to have to really hone in on a topic that you want to commit to or invest in to take you through the rest of the program. So it is a very unique relationship, kind of a triad, if you will, of your faculty mentor, our integrated librarian, and your course professors. And so there's always a means for you to have support, those conversations that you need to bounce ideas off of, or just need to talk to about, what I would like to call multiple competing priorities that we all have as adults in graduate education, just in education in general. So the relationship is definitely more collegial and peer-based than it is, again. So we can really offer that support as you progress through all of the exciting things that we have in our curriculum.
What I love about that is that it's really like when someone's learning how to ride a bike,
Mhm.
right? Sometimes your hand's on the back of the seat and sometimes your hand is off, but you're always running alongside them. And that's what our students can expect from their faculty mentor, our integrated librarian. They're always right there. So if we fast forward back to the snowball, the whole time the snowball is building, our faculty mentor is there, the librarian is there, and really giving you the support, when you need it, but always there.
Exactly. And I think too, one of the things that typically, sort of seeps into the mind of every graduate student when they start that journey is like, I can't do this. Like, I don't do research. Like, that's not me, but that's not possible. It is you, it is possible, and it will happen. Right. And that's really the thing that keeps me in education, is really seeing the point at which students are like, what, I can do this. This is definitely me. This is what I can do. And so I have, again, to refer back to my own experience as a graduate student, all of those things came to me with that support that I received from my professor, from my faculty advisor, and from the integrated research support in our librarian that we had. So those are the elements I think that really is going to help Mercy stand out and really help our students succeed.
So if we pivot a little bit, what students will be, as the snowball's building, they're going to be building skills along the way that will culminate in the practicum experience.
Yes.
Where they're leading a system change.
Yes.
And when they're looking past, what's next, what's after finishing this graduate degree, they'll really have tangible evidence and project and academic work to
Yes.
discuss to a future employer of I've kind of been there, done that.
Exactly. Yeah. This is going to provide them with, just as you said, tangible deliverables. This is a project, I have implemented this within a health system, or, I've had this experience, I've done this, I've done, and having those, kind of accolades to go with, the knowledge that you've gained, obviously, in graduate education, but you come with the experience, again, that a lot of students are like, I can't do that. That's not something I could do. I could never publish something. Yes, you can, and you will, right? That's going to come with, your journey through our curriculum. And that's the snowball element. It's just a unique experience that I can't really explain outside of what I've done. But I can't tell you that, the reward that it is to watch students progress and through that snowball element, and just to watch them develop confidence and understand that absolutely you're not an imposter. This is you, this is your arena, and this is what you're going to do. So
I was just going to ask you about confidence. So describe what confidence was to you after your graduate degree.
Yes.
Say like interviewing for a job,
Oh, boy.
approaching a manager, things that maybe before the degree, maybe weren't as comfortable.
Exactly. No, that's a fantastic question. So again, that kind of imposter syndrome that you come with, like, this is just not something that I could do. We have to remember, right? The cornerstone of graduate education is that we're building on existing like professional knowledge and diving really into a very specific area of expertise for you, where you're going to take the knowledge that you've gained from others in, either from books or experiences or, whatever that may be. And you're going to kind of put that all together and draw your own conclusions and kind of expand your knowledge base that way. And so you really do leave your graduate education with your own kind of specialized niche or area of expertise that really is specific to you. And so that really boosts an individual's confidence that this is something that I can do specific to me based on all of the things that I have gone through in my academic career and professional career. And it just is, it's a one of a kind. And so, that's really, once students really kind of come into that understanding, and understand what it is they really do have the capacity to do, as evidenced by all of the things that you'll achieve in your graduate education as coursework, it does put a little wind in your sails.
So students that they have their BSN, they're working as a nurse, they've got choices, right? There's many MSN programs. One could probably get overwhelmed going online to look for an MSN program. So why our program, and what can students expect in terms of the competencies that they build for what they could look forward to after completing the program?
So again, you're right, Andy, there are a lot of kind of generic MSN programs out there, or, there are, other programs in organizations and systems leadership as well. But again, I think what makes our program, what I know makes our program a cut above the rest, is the model that we have here for support and advising and just creating a tailor-made experience for students that is going to develop their very specific professional interests, right, to culminate into something, at the end, that is going to either expand their current scope of practice or lead to future job opportunities. So, we really look at that immersion experience as a way for you to demonstrate, all that you can do. And so typically in the graduate arena, that can sort of, act in a sense as, a bit of a job interview or a place for you to be able to shine, to demonstrate, like, look at all the things that I can do here, which often does turn into, job opportunities. So, there are just, aside from the immersion experience, there are also multiple opportunities to engage with industry experts in some of the courses that we have in our concentration elements. So there's an expectation in each of our concentration courses that students will work to solve what we call authentic problems. And that involves engaging with an expert in that professional arena, so that you can learn to understand what, those, I guess, professionally relevant problems are, but they are all based on what your career trajectory is. We would never take a student who is super interested in becoming like a CNO and put them in, maybe an office environment, or some kind of other practice environment that's not really synonymous with what their goals are. So,
well, looking into our fall, I know that we have spots left. Students that are interested in learning more can go to our website at mchs.edu/MSN. We have a free application at mchs.edu/apply. I'm available in our admissions office to anyone that has questions. Students that want to dive deep can set up a time to talk with Dr. Steffens. I'm going to give you the last word before we finish out.
Again, I understand that it is a big commitment. It's scary, and the whole, I don't think I can do this. This is not for me. I really urge you to just reflect and really think about the potential that you have as an individual with all of your expertise and life experiences to make an impact in a health organization like systems arena. I think that our program and the model that we have for support and building student competence and confidence is really a very unique one that you're not going to get at other organizations. And so I think if what is holding you back is maybe a little bit of fear or trepidation about trying to make a commitment to graduate education, I really feel like you are going to have what you need support-wise, flexibility. I really think that it's always worth a phone call to either me or Andy and to discuss to see what potential there is within you.
Perfect. Before we close out, a quick shout out to our students that are coming this fall, and to those who watch this and think that this is their next step. We can't wait to have you. On behalf of Dr. Steffens, our whole college at Mercy College of Health Sciences, thanks for watching, and we'll catch you next time.
Have a great day, guys.